The bank will open at 8:30 to the public and close at 5 to the public. But these women are in those banking halls way earlier than that. And in most cases, they leave way later than that. You'll find someone who came to work at 6, leaving the bank at 10 p.m.
10 p.m., that's
and they
true.
are expected back at work the same time the next day. So I crush on you ladies, especially Anjuko. I like really crush on her.
And you want to cause problems to Sonko, but let's move forward. Good morning, Robert.
A lovely morning to our viewers, and of course the beautiful Chantal and Olive here, not forgetting the young Sonko.
Oh, wow. Bullets are coming.
Well, who are you crushing on just before we dive into the local stories?
Well, I'm crushing on women in the armed forces. Something really caught my attention this morning while I was driving to work around Ginger Road, where there are anti-riot trucks. If you've noticed, this
yes.
side of Kingdom Hotel, as you're sloping down, there are 2 anti-riot trucks. And now, you know, it has rained heavily.
When there are
now,
tents there.
there are tents down there. And I saw a lady coming out of these tents.
Oh dear.
So there is a weight, very small, at least the size of this, and it had rained, and she was coming out with her gun because there are 2 cars that knocked. So I think it created, you know, Uganda, how they gather. So I looked at this lady, and I'm like, this is where she has spent the night. For the Akandinda, for the Najuma, for the Sonko, for the Chirabo, to be able to come to work. I salute you, women.
Wow. Okay, thank you for that. And well, definitely the ladies in uniform do a wonderful job, especially because the conditions in there may not sometimes favor them, but they figure out how to manage. And we crush on you, like Cheryl says. This morning, the ladies in banking, you're doing a wonderful job. How you balance life and that work that you do, only God knows. Well, at this moment, we get to dive into the local stories that we have put together.
And we'll begin with the Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Robina Nabbanja, who handed over management of botanical gardens to the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities for development into a modern tourist site. The facility, located in Entebbe municipality, has been under the management of Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. The Entebbe Botanical Gardens were established in 1898. Nabbanja, who was accompanied by Colonel Tom Butime, the Minister for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, the Minister of State for Tourism, Mogara, inspected the facility before it was handed over. In line with the presidential directive, the Prime Minister said the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, and Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities should work together to transform their gardens into a modern tourism site. As directed by the President, the facility will continue to perform its research and conservation functions. Nabbanja noted that the facility was originally set up as a collection plant specimen and information about their use, but now also collects plants for research and conservation. In addition to these roles, the Prime Minister said the facility should be developed and equipped to facilitate tourism promotion, education, research, and recreation, among others.
Now moving on, mourners converge to All Saints Cathedral Church to celebrate the life of Dokolo constituency woman member of parliament, the late Cecilia Otim Ogwal. A group of members of parliament headed by the Speaker of Parliament, Chief Whip Hamson Obua, and Leader of Opposition in Parliament, Joel Senyonyi, sang a farewell song. The chief mourner, Anita Among, said the late fallen legislator inspired her into politics and has mentored her throughout. She will remember Cecilia Ogwal for being a nationalist and prayer warrior. The late also advocated for gender equality and the women movement in Uganda to feel great pain that their mothers are dying, citing the late Joyce Mpanga, who passed on 2 months ago. Miriam Matembe, a women activist, describes the late as one who succeeded in 3 levels: godly, public, and family. Mzee Lamek Ogwal, the husband to the late, said his wife was a great wife and mother who never entertained any spirit of disobedience. One of the children, who lives in Australia and was attending to his mother in India, narrates that what caused the death of the legislator started in 2023 and worsened after Christmas, when she got low blood count and became anemic.
And moving on, women street vendors in Kampala City have petitioned High Court Civil Division challenging KCCA and employees of harassment and violation of their rights by prohibiting them to operate in the city. They say they said they want justice to prevail and to be compensated from KCCA for injuries during KCCA operations. Kampala Capital City Authority banned vendors from operating on the streets of Kampala City, the aim of promoting the Kampala Smart City. Hamida Nakaya, Esther Opio, and others are seeking justice from High Court Division for violation of their rights. The women also appeal to KCCA Chief Executive Officer Dorothy Kisaka to help them. Isaac Sentumbwe is their lawyer representing them in this petition.
And lastly, in the local news, Uganda Kingdom and Eswatini have pledged to strengthen the relationship to enhance norms and values among the subjects. This was revealed during the courtesy call by the Prime Minister of Eswatini, Russell Miso Dlamini, to Uganda Katikiro Charles Peter Maiga at Bulange Mengo. At Uganda Kingdom headquarters, Bulange Mengo was a moment to receive the Prime Minister of Eswatini, who was paying a courtesy call to Uganda's Katikiro Charles Peter Maiga. Upon arrival, Eswatini's Prime was welcomed by the Katikiro Charles Peter Maiga and was ushered into cabinet room. During the meeting, Katikiro Maiga extended Kabaka Ronald Mutebi's message to Prime Minister of Eswatini and appreciated the relationship between the two kingdoms. The Prime Minister of Eswatini, Russell Miso Dlamini, calls for unity among people of Uganda and Africa. They later toured Bulange. In the Luchiko Hall, the Prime Minister of Eswatini visited the oil refinery at Bujiri Bukasa, owned by Captain Mike Mukula, and toured Kabaka Mutebi 2 ship. The King of Eswatini, consular to Uganda, says Uganda has got opportunities and pledged collaboration.
Well, that marks the end of our local news stories. Let's cross over and see what is happening internationally. And the Turkish MPs have ratified Sweden's bid to join NATO in a long-delayed vote that represents a big step forward on the Nordic nation's path to membership. Sweden applied to join in 2022 after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, but Turkey withheld approval amidst a row over what it called Sweden's support to Kurdish separatists. Turkish President Erdogan is expected to sign the legislation within days. It leaves Hungary the sole NATO member yet to ratify Sweden's accession. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson posted on social media, Today we are one step closer to becoming a full member of NATO." And NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg welcomed Turkey's vote, saying he was counting on Hungary to complete its national ratification as soon as possible. Hungary has accused Sweden of having a hostile attitude. Moving on, United Nations Antonio Guterres tells UN Security Council nothing can justify the collective punishment of the Palestinian people. At least 14 people were killed in Israel's attack on 2 residential homes in the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza, the Wafa news agency reports. Medical sources have told Al Jazeera that at least 40 Palestinians were killed in Khan Yunis over the day, while Israeli bombings are preventing the recovery of dozens more bodies. Israel's military has announced its deadliest single day for troops since the Gaza ground invasion began, with 24 Israeli soldiers killed. At least 25,490 people have been killed and 63,000 wounded in Israeli attacks since, on Israeli attacks on Gaza since October 7th. Now coming back to Africa, Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has warned Ethiopia against taking steps to implement a controversial port deal it brokered with the breakaway region of Somaliland. Under a memorandum of understanding signed on 1st January, Somaliland leased landlocked Ethiopia 20 kilometers of its coastland around the port of Berbera on the Gulf of Aden for 50 years for military and commercial purposes. In an exclusive interview with Al Jazeera on Tuesday, Mohamud said Ethiopian assets would have to cross into Somalia's territory in order to reach the leased area and warned Addis Ababa against taking such a step. So far, Ethiopians haven't come into Somaliland. If they will, then that will be a problem at a different level, Mohamud said. Egypt, which is involved in a separate dispute with Ethiopia over a major dam on the Blue Nile, has vowed to stand with Mogadishu on the Somaliland dispute. Speaking matters climate for new emperor, penguin colonies have been identified in Antarctica from satellite imagery. It brings the number of known nesting sites around the white continent to 66. With the discoveries, scientists believe they now know the whereabouts of all the world's remaining breeding pairs. It's vital information for conservationists monitoring a species that's under increasing pressure as a result of climate change. Emperor's court might lay and hatch eggs and then bring up their young ones on the sea ice connected to the coast, so-called fast ice. But this type of ice has diminished in parts of Antarctica and become more variable, certainly in recent years, putting a big question mark against the long-term viability of the species in an ever-warming world. Emperors are the largest species of penguin, standing at over 1 million tall. Well, that is it for international news and, of course, what is happening locally. But let's check what is in today's papers with Joram Paul Sonko.
And in today's newspapers, we look at the front page of the New Vision first. UAE to build refinery in April. Uganda to earn 2 trillion in investment in regards to the same. Then furthermore, Uganda will earn 5.2 trillion in investment. Furthermore, SINOC to build gas facility, a pictorial of the SINOC officials with the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, Ruth Nankabira, are at the front page of the New Vision this morning. Then Entebbe Zoo charms visiting first ladies. Read about that report and go through the visit as they went to the Uganda Wildlife Education Center. Then in business, how new PPDA law affects contractors. An interesting report. Then in petroleum, Kenyan court rules against Uganda. Then furthermore, Cecilia Ogwal, how she raised a strong family. Read about the late Honorable in today's New Vision. Now Uganda asserts its global presence. Where and how was that? Read about it in the New Vision today. Then furthermore, in the economy, domestic areas reached 10.5 trillion Ugandan shillings. The New Vision is giving you more of those details. Then we cross to the Daily Monitor. Uganda picks Dubai farm to build refinery is the bigger headline for the Daily Monitor today. Suspected fake food and drinks flood the market. An interesting report on that one and why you should be cautious on the type of food you consume in this new year. There is a pictorial of some of those goods and commodities that are definitely fake and are flooding the market. Then also vocational schools to scrap math and English in new reforms. This is a report on education. Then in the other news, Lango receives body of Cecilia Ogwal amid grief. Read about it. Now in the Homes magazine, the interior design trends predicted to rule homes in 2024. Then also you can read about Rwanda and Burundi relations reach new law. And then suspected explosive found at botanical gardens. Read about that still in the Daily Monitor. Then let's cross the borders to Kenya, where we start with the Daily Nation. Secrets of Ruto and Mudavadi deal. Read about those as the Daily Nation highlights earthquake 2 years later. Then petition why churches should pay taxes on tithe. That is in Kenya. Then the World Bank gives Kisumu 1.4 billion shillings of a facelift as Supreme Acts casualties of Ahmed Nasir court ban. Read about those as Kenya bans 2 trillion shillings 4 years in advance. That is within the Daily Nation. Then also an interesting report on parenting, why we choose high day bags instead of live-in nannies. That is within the Daily Nation. As also stop supremacy battles, Ruto tells Gachagua and Nyoro. More of that is in the Daily Nation, which brings us to the end of our press review this Wednesday.
Well, thank you so much for staying around with us. Let's take a very short break. We'll be right back with the newsreel.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again.
Damn, who knew? All the planes we flew, good things we've been through. That I'll be standing right here talking to you about another path. I know we love to hit the road and laugh, but something told me that it wouldn't last. Had to switch up, look at things different, see the bigger picture. Those were the days, hard work forever pays. Now I see you in a better place. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way, from where we began.
You know we started.
Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again.
Let me tell you.
When I see you again.
First you both go out your way and the vibe is feeling strong. And what's small turn to a friendship turn to a bond, and that bond will never be broken, the love will never get lost. And when brotherhood come first, then the line will never be crossed. Established it on our own when that line had to be drawn, and that line is what we reach, so remember me when I'm gone. How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything I went through, you were standing there by my side, and now you gon' be with me for the last ride.
Let the light guide your way. Yeah. Hold every memory as you go, and every road you take will always lead you home. Oh, it's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see
Pick of the day on UBC.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
welcome everyone to the biggest game on the continent.
And you have to. You've got to just seize those moments and enjoy them as much as you possibly can.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala, we have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
The cardinal role of a government is maintaining law and order, safeguarding citizens' rights and providing essential public goods and services. Throughout its tenure, the government has consistently upheld these principles. This foundation creates an environment conducive to delivering crucial social services to citizens through diverse approaches such as taxation, strategic budgeting, and effective policy implementation. A transformative education system, advancing healthcare provisions, enhancing social welfare, and propelling infrastructure growth, all of which continue to evolve daily to cater to the population's expectations. Supported by a meticulously organized network of ministries, government remains committed to serving its citizens. Coming soon on your public broadcaster, The Front Bench, your interface with the government every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with Joram Paul Sonko, only on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Once again, thank you for joining us. You're watching UBC Television. This is Good Morning Uganda, and we are live here at Nile Avenue, making sure that we keep you posted of everything that happens in the country. But at this moment, this is time for our newsreel. We get to discuss matters concerning every single Ugandan, and we would like you to weigh in on these matters. We look forward to hearing from you. So here's how you can do it. When you send us a message, please make sure that you include your name. We like to get in touch with you and know who we are dealing with or who we are talking to. It is usually better in such a way. It helps us to get to know you who is watching now. This discussion today, we are going to be talking about KCCA, and there is a report that was put out yesterday. Particular individuals are suing KCCA over alleged torture, and this is the point where we get to say, share your views on how KCCA and civilians or business owners can avoid friction, especially during enforcement. And we have seen this happen over and over again. We've seen vendors being put off the streets. We've seen, if you have been in town on one random day and there are vendors on the street, the moment someone says KCCA, or the moment someone sees a truck, or even someone in either a black or cream shirt that has the label KCCA, people will start scattering. People will gather everything they have and start to run, and that is why you'll find that when you are caught during such a time, probably your commodities or your items are going to be taken. If they're not taken, you're probably going to leave them and run, or you will carry and lose some. And I think it's about time we got to have the discussion of how best we can have these scenarios reduced or even removed for good. At the end of the day, we're looking at how we can exist. Understandable that these vendors, these business owners are looking for a living for their families and themselves. And this is the point, of course, we will have the discussion on what role can KCCA play, what role can we, the civilians, or the business owners play, and how best can we move forward together? On set, I do have John Paul Sonko and Olive Monica Najuma to discuss this issue. You are not on set, but you can get in touch with us. You can let us know what you think on the same now. Yesterday's report, this is what it says. Street vendors sue KCCA over torture. And when you go through the report, there's two ladies, Miss Apio and Nakayaga, who claim that KCCA enforcement officers actually, one says, this is Nakayaga, she says one of the enforcers squeezed her breast. And there is reports that will keep coming out. I saw a report of 2018. I saw different people have come out to have complaints. And Sonko, yes. At this point, we get to have this discussion. And my first question would be, what could be the causes of these scenarios, of this friction that we see between KCCA enforcers and the civilians?
I'm going to first throw back to 2017. There was an allegation where the KCCA officials by then, those particular ones who are recruited for the specific role of, taking vendors off the streets. And the reports that was actually released in 2017 was that the KCCA officials were on the spotlight over the fact that they let Olivia Basemera, who plugged into the navigable channel and drowned, did so because of the KCCA officials. Now, when you get back to the question where you asked, what do you think may be the cause of the SEM, or between this friction between the vendors and the KCCA officials, especially the officials on ground, not the ones in office.
The enforcers.
Yeah, the enforcers. You do realize that even during such a time, there has always been a question on the level of recruitment, what they consider, and then also the level of education of these enforcement officers. Because however much we look at it in different aspects, regardless of manual work, there's an aspect of education that needs to be encrypted in these people.
Yes.
And this, in this particular regard, is skilling them up or trying to help them go through what you could say a training of how to deal with different people. That you're going to enforce the law, because as law enforcers, if you're to look at law enforcers even in the police, because the police also has got law enforcers, for example the LDUs, that are organs of security that help in law enforcement alongside the police, of course, but they go through training of how to handle human beings, or how to handle civilians, especially in a point where the civilian is not even a criminal. How you handle them has to be a little bit different. So this has always caused questions on what is the level of education that they have. I think now that goes back to amongst the causes. That what is the level of skill up or training that these people go through, which is something that is still up for question. Then the recruitment. The recruitment process, how are they recruited? Are we recruiting individuals who are jobless because they are seeking for a job?
Because they're available.
Or they are available.
They have a certain build.
Exactly. Or are you going to the gym to find someone who is having a buff
the strength
body, the strength to carry someone
people off the streets?
Because when you look at most of these enforcers, they're either people with well-built bodies, the muscles are up, or others will actually be very angry and very aggressive, which shows that maybe they are looking for individuals that are aggressive, not open to dialogue. At times we've seen reports where, news stories where most of these enforcers are manhandling women. Why am I using manhandling is because at times you do realize, because of the different, appearance in nature, at times there is a way you will handle a man that would look appropriate, and it would be really inappropriate for a woman. Because when you look at even the cases there, clearly show some of the vendors were saying they were squeezed.
Yeah, for the case of Nakayaga, yes.
Exactly. So when you squeeze a woman's breasts, of course, we've had issues with the SEM over the years, and health complications are related to that aspect. For the man, if you're going to grab a man by the chest, he has nothing there.
Right.
So it's a different scenario. So I think one of the causes is the level of educational training, which I think KCCA needs to look into. Then also, the other way is, how do we handle each other while on ground? Most of the vendors, by the way, when you look at it, most of the vendors are also not easy to go by.
Of course.
Where you find the KCCA enforcers coming in to open up room for dialogue, some of them would rather say, or insult these people back.
Insult them,
you know, retaliate, and then also try to create room for arguments. And this has always caused problems, especially in the city. In the morning, you will see law enforcers or KCCA enforcers going through, trying to tell the vendors, this place is out of bounds.
Right.
And every time the vendors see the officials coming in, or the enforcers, they normally run off the street, which shows they know what they're doing is wrong.
Right.
And then the reason as to why the friction continues is because you realize most of these people tend to see that every time we are away, the vendors tend to bring back their commodities on the streets.
Yes.
Now when they see us, they run off. So they tend to use the manpower, which again becomes a problem, because in the efforts of trying to clear the streets, they end up either stealing, which is an allegation obviously, and then also end up destroying some of these commodities of these vendors. And at times these vendors also end up in police cells at the end of the day if they continue having this kind of friction, which at times even is mixed with punches and blows and the like. So the causes may be a little bit wide, but you could look at the level of education or training, I should say, let me say training, that these law enforcers get. Then two, goes back to the recruitment. How do they recruit? What do they consider while recruiting these people? Are they mentally okay to deal with them, with the different vendors? Because you may recruit someone who already has his personal issues that he's fighting with. So he's looking at who he's going to pour his frustrations on.
So
and then he looks
looking
for
a punching bag,
a punching bag per se. Then also some of the vendors are not easy to deal with. That is also another issue. Right. Because if you're trying to enforce law, and then the people you're trying to put in, in the proper basket of how the law is supposed to go, do not or are not receptive of that, it becomes a very big issue for you.
Right, and it's at this point that I'd like to hear from you, Olive. We are talking about especially the causes of the friction. For very many years, or for a number of years, KCCA has tried to make sure we don't have street vendors. The kiosks, some of them were removed. We have seen a lot of friction over and over again. We have seen cases where civilians are complaining. We have seen cases, some complain about corruption, some complain about unfairness, others will complain about there is no alternative offered. So what, in your opinion, are the causes of the friction that we are seeing between the KCCA enforcers and the civilians?
Well, first of all, the government is committed to creating a smart city. And if you've traveled enough, you will realize that in most countries, even here in Africa, even here in East Africa, there are places you're going to visit and you will come back home wondering what we have.
What you did wrong.
When it comes to Kampala. I remember like 2-3 years ago, when you'd go to Kampala, around the section that has the Yamaha building, Mutasa Kafero Plaza, William Street, and for lack of a better word, the city looked like a large trash can. You'd find kasasiro everywhere. Everywhere was strewn, like people, first of all, people in Kampala have very uncouth, and I'm not saying this lightly, people we do not have enough garbage disposal centers. So someone buys kasoli, eats kasoli, throws on the street, okay? So government, because of that, government decided that we need to have a smart city. First of all, we need to have a good road network. Then we need to have markets. And also we need to take vendors off the street. And this is where the problem started from. Because, in my opinion, there is politicizing the issues of Kampala. Government comes up with a plan, we need a smart city, money is given so that we have a smart city, and guess what? There will be a leader who will say, people need to make money. You cannot get vendors off the street. You cannot get hawkers off the street. So it creates a problem where government is on one side and then the vendors are with the politician or with the leader who is politicizing this case. We've had counter accusations between the Lord Mayor Elias Lukwago and then the, let's say, the people that the let's say Minister for Kampala, where Lukwago is saying vendors should not get off the street, or the money that was given maybe should not have been given to these people. So there is no working together when it comes to the people that lead the city, because I would think that the Lord Mayor for Kampala and the KCCA leadership should work in tandem to ensure that we have a smart city.
Right.
But where the problem comes in, KCCA says we are going to have markets. Vendors should go off the streets and go into the markets. Go to Wandegea market. You're going to find most of the market empty. Go to different markets around the city. You're going to find, let's say there is Nakawa market, but then on the street, you're going to find vendors selling tomatoes, selling oranges and whatnot. But there is a market. So why don't we, I remember growing up, there used to be markets and everyone used to sell whatever they were selling in the market. So what has made vendors refuse to occupy these markets? Some of them claim that the way the markets were built inconveniences clients from coming up. But you see, we need to have an open mind. Because when you go to other countries, you're going to find these markets. Maybe the planning is, whoever is selling, let's say, perishables, like tomatoes and whatnot, should be on the ground floor. Because people who come to shop for those things want a quick pick.
Yeah, there's no way they're going to go upstairs to the second floor.
Then upstairs, maybe there are shops for clothes and whatnot.
Shoes,
if people can afford to go upstairs in arcades to like Galilaya, like 4th, 5th floor, to buy clothes, they can do that in the market. And guess what? KCCA says that most of these markets, the stalls, like there is just a little fee paid and in some cases free, okay? So why do we have vendors on the streets? And why do we now have to get into the situation where there is force into removing them? The vendors know they are not supposed to be on the street, like Sonko said.
But then again, look at it from this angle. I've now realized that there is a role we are playing as Ugandans. If you are walking past the street and there is these vendors, tomatoes, onions, oranges, and then there is a market, my friend, you almost speak from here because it's a critical.
No, you know, it's a people problem. It's a people problem because even when you look at fast-stretched areas, you go to Mbarara, you go to Mbale, you realize even in the evening, most of the vendors get onto the streets.
They'll set up, yes.
So they get into the streets. Why? They're targeting the clients or customers who are just, walking by.
The clients that are walking by are not the problem. Because even I, Olive, in as much as I'm speaking here, if I get out of Nile Avenue and I find maybe I want to buy apples and someone is selling apples, I will buy the apples.
No, now we are part of the problem.
No, but hear me out. You know where the problem comes from? In as much as it has to be collective effort to make sure that vendors are off the street, there is laxity in enforcement.
Okay.
If you say we have a market, then why are you having vendors on the street? That's why I go back to politicizing, because a vendor knows the mayor is on my side, okay? So they know that they will have this dance of, oh, the law enforcers have come, the KCCA enforcement officers have come, let me wrap up my stuff and leave. And then later on, when it's close to elections, everyone is going to support me to stay on the street. But then there is someone who is inside an arcade, paying rent, paying taxes, and you are on the street, probably selling the same thing. Because when you go, let's say, near Parking Kade, Old Park, you're going to find people selling phones, selling phone covers, selling clothes, outside on the verandas, and where people inside are selling the same merchandise. So there is laxity in enforcement. Now, why? And for someone listening, they may be like, okay, Olive is trying to defend the brutal force used. But you see, there would be no need for brutal force, and I'm not commending it, but there would be no need for brutal force if there was, if the enforcement was on point. So we need to go back to the drawing board that before the enforcement officers, maybe we don't even need them. When you visit, let's say Kigali, do you find enforcement officers on the streets?
No, I think you're right when you say we don't need the enforcement if at all we're doing the right things.
Yes.
And the people problem is something that I think is the issue here, where the vendors themselves honestly know they're not supposed to be on those streets.
But then
and that's why they
someone's
run when they
every
see
time.
KCCA
Exactly.
enforcers.
So now when the enforcers also see this, they always come and use the force. It's already the people problem,
but
because
then also
these vendors have to have it in their minds that you're off the street.
But
you're supposed to be completely off the
it's hard
streets.
for them to have it in their minds.
Because of what they're seeing
Because
from the
let's say
administrators.
In a home, there is a mom and a dad. And if you want to have children that are respectful and obedient, you must have one voice.
One voice as
you
parents.
Can't, yes, like a child cannot come to you and say, Mommy, Daddy said I shouldn't go. And then for you say, okay, you can go, but I won't tell him. No. You have
You've
to
opened
have
room for a
this-
political
Thank
kind
you.
of setting.
You must have one voice of when Daddy says you don't go,
You
don't
don't.
go. When Mommy says you won't have a snack, you
will
won't
not.
have a snack. But we cannot have KCCA saying, go to the markets. And then we have part of the leadership of KCCA, by the way, saying, stay on the streets. You need to make more money. It doesn't work.
And then also there's the element of corruption. Some of the vendors will tell you sometimes when these things are taken or when these guys are passing through, it's a matter of you give them something and
then you
literally
stay on the roads. No, it's very common. And of course, I think it goes back to the politicking, which is within this. Government or the central government comes up with guidelines that we really need to clear off the city. And then we all know the mandate goes back to KCCA. And of course, even when you go across the country, the government has to go through or sends funds directly into, the organization or let's say the government entity that is supposed to supervise the city. Now, the issue here comes the fact that when you look at the law enforcers, they also know the truth, by the way, because there are also reports where after taking these particular goods, they either sell them off. Yes.
Or they take them themselves.
They either sell them off or immediately give them to someone who's coming in to give them money. Or if the vendor has some money to pay, they definitely get them. So, but to me, again, I think it's a people problem. I am a person here, and so that means I'm also part of the problem. Because every time I move around the street and I see a good commodity that I want to buy, because I know it's coming on at a cheap, and I start standing and pointing,
haggling and
exactly, then that means I'm also part of the problem. I'm supporting these vendors to continue doing
what
it.
are you saying?
Let me first cut you short. Let me first cut you short and read the number for you who would like to be a part of this conversation. 0709 602-592 is the number you can use to reach out to us and let us know what you think. Please do leave a name and, if possible, where you are watching from. We would like to be in your living room and be a part of you. 0709-602-592 is the WhatsApp number you can use, but also you can go to the X app and the poll question is already up there. You'll be able to let us know what you think. And the discussion, we are calling upon you to share your views on how KCCA and civilians can avoid friction during enforcement. And the other question would be, do we need enforcement, like one of the team members said? Now, some comments are already coming in. KCCA mainly involves corrupt workers who only work for small incomes they can get from the citizens. And then this is Bulamo Bill, a student from Uganda Christian University doing social work, says, in the case of what should be done to minimize conflict during enforcement drives, first and foremost, I'd like to talk about change of mentality, in that every wave of new employees at KCCA has a mindset that in order to solve issues, they need to be aggressive, which is always not the case. Criteria in which they use to get the employees, at least they must have a certain kind of level of education, because the way someone handles another human tells a lot. And this is Achiku Yofasi from Kakira Ginger City says, concerning this matter in question, we always know that handling humans is not easy. It requires much understanding of the work each person does. Thanks for the show. And then to avoid collision between vendors on the street and Kampala Capital City Authority, consider implementing designated vending zones, clear regulations and effective enforcement. Collaborate with vendors to establish fair and transparent rules and provide alternative spaces for them to operate. Regularly communicate and educate both vendors and the community about the importance of adhering to these guidelines, enforce penalties for non-compliance to deter violations and ensure a safer and organized street environment. This is a Dr. Duhimbaze Alex. And then this is a thanks for the show. Magai Ediga. Let KCCA technical team implement, which knows that it will help. I think meant to say implement that which they know it will help the city to be clean, and the political wing just do their monitoring work. The political leaders should put politics aside. 2019, when vendors were removed from the street at Namirembe, walai, it's the time that we pedestrians started enjoying the street. And lastly, okay, I think this person sent in a wrong comment to the wrong forum and on the wrong topic, unfortunately. Unfortunately. But, and then someone says vendors should be charged taxes and keep selling their goods because they have to earn a living. Now, we have literally gone through some of the major causes of the friction between the vendors and KCCA enforcers. As we are closing into the closure of this segment, my question would be, how do we avoid the friction? Please do note that we have had these conversations before. We have had cases where you talk to KCCA, you talk to the vendors have their issues, KCCA has its issue, but we need to now look at sustainable ways we can move forward and start clearing this situation. We cannot have the talk of a smart city for years and every effort that we put in seems to be futile. We need sustainable solutions. And what would be some of the ideas or suggestions we could put on the table to make sure that we rule out this? It could be progressive, it could be in a snap, depending on what we choose to employ.
Well, it can't be in a snap because, first of all, like one of our viewers said, handling people is hard.
Right.
And when you speak about vendors, these are in numbers. And actually, sometimes they outnumber the enforcement officers. Now, one thing needs to be noted. Enforcement officers are not allowed to destroy property or the merchandise of the vendors. Those things of throwing someone's wheelbarrow, nagarariously.
And then the tomatoes.
And yes, they are not allowed to do that. But also you understand, if you've witnessed what usually happens, there is usually, it's not usually easy. The vendor is trying to save his merchandise, and then these guys are trying, the enforcers are trying to hold on to it.
The vendor is thinking about the child at home who is expecting.
And of course, in one case, we had a situation that turned fatal when they were trying to arrest the mother who was a vendor, and the child ended up being hurt. And then another time when the mother went to KCCA offices to pick their merchandise that had been taken, confiscated, and while a KCCA truck was reversing, a baby was knocked to death. So we've had some of those terrible situations, and of course the ladies that are petitioning, you know, to be compensated, they were manhandled. That is not okay. Because if you're arresting me, what business do you have with squeezing someone's breast?
Thank you.
It makes no sense. So KCCA should go away from brutal force. I know they need to use force, but there is a difference between force and brutal. Sometimes it's like they're there to hurt, and that's not okay. But for me, my parting shot is we need to go away from politicking these issues. The political side and KCCA management are supposed to work hand in hand to create a smart city. Let's have designated vending areas. We do not have to have vendors on the road for them to make a living. They can have an area where their clients will find them. It is happening in other countries. We can do it. I'll give you an example. When you go to Ntinda, do you find vendors on the street? And there are people buying merchandise. Why is it that in the middle of the city, we must have vendors on the streets? It makes no sense.
Right.
And well, mine would be, I think we need to also look at the administration of these markets. Because if we are taking the vendors off the street, the reason, most of them give reasons that it's quite uncomfortable or unfavorable for them in the markets. Either way,
they don't want to pay taxes.
You know, they don't want to pay taxes or even the fee they're supposed to be paying to access these markets. So we need to make the fees favorable, but then also the administration of the markets from the top because normally these markets do have chairpersons or they have a committee that runs them and regulations to follow. So we need to make them favorable so that as we are moving them off the streets, they get into an environment, because as a smart city that we are pushing for needs also having smart vendors and smart citizens within, whether they are civilians, customers, or even business people, because that is the same issue we are facing with even the street children. You're getting them off the streets. Where are you taking them? Every time they take them to either rehabilitation centers, they don't spend there a lot of time. You find a new bunch of others.
By the way, did you notice that during there were zero street children?
But we are expecting to see them in Feb.
So what did we do? What we did in January is what we should continue doing.
Anyways.
Well, we are coming to the end of this conversation. Thank you, Jerome Paul Sonko. Thank you, Olive Monica, for being on set with me to discuss this. And also to you, our viewer, who has been able to weigh in. Thank you for your opinion. And we are always looking forward to hearing from you. Now, someone here says, this is Charles. Charles says, the problem is majorly enforcement, and we, the lazy consumers who need convenience. Very well put. If we remove these vendors to markets and or designated areas, we construct or well-constructed areas with the consumers that developed a culture of buying from those areas, no compliance is accompanied by penalties. Also, we need to fight poverty, which perpetuates this culture, and that is indeed very true. These people are on the streets because they may not manage some of these things. We're all Uganda. Let KCCA not take others like dogs, and I think even street vendors also pay taxes, which is part of their earnings. Martin's phone Dr. Toro. These people actually do not pay taxes. They do not pay taxes. Good morning. Thanks for the show. This is Bora Rosa Edward listening from Makerere. Street vendors should fet out of the streets, because the government has tried to create and construct markets. For example, Kasubi, a market was created, but still vendors couldn't cooperate. Now, unfortunately, I have some more comments that are still coming in, but I may not be able to read all of them. But thank you for weighing in. Thank you for your opinion. You have done a wonderful job. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. We'll be taking a very short break, and coming up will be Tourism Express. Please don't go away.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Welcome everyone to the biggest game on the continent.
And you have to. You've got to just seize those moments and enjoy them as much as you possibly can.
The cardinal role of a government is maintaining law and order, safeguarding citizens' rights, and providing essential public goods and services. Throughout its tenure, the government has consistently upheld these principles. This foundation creates an environment conducive to delivering crucial social services to citizens through diverse approaches such as taxation, strategic budgeting, and effective policy implementation. A transformative education system, advancing healthcare provisions, enhancing social welfare, and propelling infrastructure growth, all of which continue to evolve daily to cater to the population's expectations. Supported by a meticulously organized network of ministries, government remains committed to serving its citizens. Coming soon on your public broadcaster, The Front Bench, your interface with the government every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with Jerome Paul Sonko, only on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso, every Wednesday live in our studios In the heart of Kampala, we have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Good morning to all our viewers. We are hoping that you're having a full blast of this cold morning. It is still one of those unusual mornings that we have in January. You could think that this is not Jan, but yes, it is, and this is what we always say, that there is climate change. You never know what is going to happen. We could have some time to come, maybe we could have it could be very sunny, maybe like in December, like the weather is really changing, the climate is changing, but yes, we should start getting used to these changes. Even if it rains early in the morning in Jan and you are not used to it, you still have to get up, go and get up or grab those opportunities that the day is offering in that day. Well, today it is still our pleasure to see that we start you through that day with tourism talks. And this is the GME Tourism Express, where we take you around the world of travel. This is to inspire you to travel, explore the Pearl of Africa, but also to motivate you and have tourism talks in your conversations, like normal conversations with your workmates, with your colleagues, with your family members or relatives. Like, we need you to talk about tourism. One thing that you should know is that tourism is not a one-man feat. It is everyone's role. It is everyone's job. You are earning from tourism, whether directly or indirectly, because we've been thinking that maybe the hoteliers, the operators, tourism promoters, those are the only people that should have the conversations of tourism. But let's say $1 that a tourist brings in, how many people tap into this dollar when a tourist comes in? First of all, the government gets foreign exchange, a hotelier earns, a tourist guide earns, a street vendor earns. You talk about the forex bureaus, they also earn, like people who sell craft markets, a farmer who sells food to the hotel. Like, it is a big chain that earns from this $1 that a tourist spends in a country. So that is why we say that everyone has a role to promote the country and sell it more. You talk more about the diversities that we have in the country. Just like we said that at GME Tourism Express, we take you through the travel news, the trends, attractions. Now in the travel news today, we are talking about the Uganda Wildlife Conservation and Education Center. Something is happening at this center, whether the management, whatever the management is doing, it is superb. And UWEC is taking very positive strides in the promotion of Uganda's tourism and conservation. First, on Monday, it hosted the spouses of His Excellencies and delegates of the NAM and G77 Plus Summit. They had a morning at UWEC just to visit the different animals that UWEC keeps. And you know, UWEC gives the best introduction of Uganda's diversity. When you go to UWEC, you're able to see the lions, the cheetahs, giraffes, like so many wildlife species, the trees that you see there, and they give you an introduction of what you should expect in the national parks that we have in the country. And trust me, if there are species that you spot at UWEC and you cannot spot them in the national parks, it is only one probably, and that is those are the tigers, but the rest you spot them in the national parks of Uganda. So if you had a blast at UWEC, that just excites you more or interests you to visit the national parks that we have. Remember, we have 10 national parks in the country, full of diversity, and some things are unique to each of the parks. Still, UWEC yesterday was handed over Entebbe Botanical Gardens, and this was witnessed by the Prime Minister, Honorable Nabanja Robina. And this is one way that we are looking at promoting more conservation. We want to see that these gardens, actually they are one of Africa's oldest botanical gardens. They are gazetted in 1898, but the management was under the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, but it was now handed over to Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, and it will be taken care of by UWEC. And we are hoping that whatever UWEC is doing to the zoo, it is going to be done to the botanical gardens, and it will promote the tourism there. It will still stay as a research center, but the trails are going to be improved, the infrastructures, and it will be promoted, and it will attract more of the tourists to these botanical gardens. That is it that we had for you in the travel news, and definitely we are going into one of the most exciting things of this segment, and that is the travel attraction of the day. And today we are taking you very far to the northeastern part of the country at the border of South Sudan and Kenya. And we are talking about Chidepo Valley National Park. This is a park that is not so common to people because it is the farthest park from Kampala. It has the longest distance. Other national parks are somehow closer to Kampala, but it is very far. Actually, some of the routes that you use to Chidepo, one is about 600 kilometers. But the remoteness that it has, that makes it the true African wilderness. This is one of Uganda's parks that has been ranked on several occasions as one of the best parks in Africa. And when we say that it is one of the best parks in Africa, the beauty that is here in Chidepo indeed makes Uganda the pearl of Africa. Now, when we talk about the scenic view, the scenery, the horizons, like the scenery, the landscape is so flat, and you can just stretch your eyes to the horizons as far as you can. The backdrop of the hills in the landscape, they just make it so stunning to take the scenic view, to take photos. And then the wildlife, when it gets to the wildlife, Chidepo is home to most of the endangered wildlife species that we have in Uganda. It is the only park where you can spot the cheetah, and this is the fastest land mammal. This is where you can spot the cheetahs. Apart from UWEC that we said, you can spot the cheetahs in their natural habitats in UWEC. Other species that you're able to see in Chidepo, the buffaloes. The park has the country's biggest herds of buffaloes. You can drive for like a kilometer just watching buffaloes. Here you can see herds of buffaloes of like 1,000 buffaloes, 500 buffaloes. But the park is extremely beautiful, that everything you see is in its true beauty. Here you see the true savanna grasslands. In the wet season, they are green. In the dry season, it turns golden. You see the true savanna woodland. But again, also the Naras Valley that has, the park is dissected with different rivers, seasonal rivers actually, because when you go there in the dry season, you're definitely not going to find water in these rivers, and they're shelters to different wildlife species. But the park is dissected with different rivers, and one of the common one is the Naras Valley, and this Naras Valley is home to almost most of the wildlife species in Chidepo stay in this valley because it is the major water source in Chidepo. But Chidepo, when we say the different attractions, you think of the wildlife species, yes, that is extremely stunning in the park. But the mountains that make the backdrop of the park, Murongole Mountain, Moroto, like there are so many mountains, and the cultural diversity here is one that you cannot find anywhere else. Like the tribes here, the Ik people at the top of Moroto and Murongole, the Dodoth, the Karamajongs, like these people are unique, and when you find them, one of the things that characterizes the Karamajongs is the shells that they cover themselves. They're usually bright colored, and then their hats and their carved shoes. These are made from old tires, and then you usually find them standing with their sticks. These sticks are used for cattle keeping. So when you see someone dressed like that, you just be sure that you're in Karamoja region, and it is one region that you should put on your travel bucket list this year or next year, but just make sure that you visit this place, because you won't remain the same when you're in Chidepo Valley National Park. And there are so many things that we cannot talk about now, but just know that it is the true African wilderness. And yes, going into the travel tip of that day, yes, we are telling you to explore Chidepo, but as you're going there or any other part of the country, make sure that you go with friends. Trips or safaris become more fun when you're with people that you know, making jokes, like just having fun together. So make sure that you go with friends. I'm not saying that solo trips are very bad or are bad, but going with friends makes that trip more extreme fun because you be with people that you know. Thank you so much. I am Irene Alena Misango, Uganda Uncovered. Catch you tomorrow.
It is business time now. Good morning. I'm Joram Paul. Song codes, chilly outside, and well, surprisingly, many Ugandans are already waking up. Lately, many do hit the streets as early as 6 o'clock to make sure that they catch the worm. Remember, the early bird does catch the worm. Many, though, end up sleeping with the worms, and it becomes easier for them. But as we get into the business world, let's start off with the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Industry and Fisheries that wants stakeholders in the agricultural industry to align projects with government-initiated programs that targets commercialized practices. When you look at what the government intends with commercialized agriculture, it's because we want to increase our level of value addition and also our level of exports, especially when it comes to the agricultural produce. The reason as to why projects like the parish development model were initiated is to ensure that many Ugandans do have initial capital that can help them expand and grow their capital base. The Commissioner in charge of crop protection at the Ministry of Agriculture, Stephen Tibeijuka, while officiating at the Sasaka Africa Association annual meeting, reiterated on the need for the private sector to support the government to implement develop agriculture value chain development strategy. And Sasaka Africa Association annual general meeting does intend to evaluate strategic other projects that will as well look at project implementation and also development plans of transforming agricultural reforms within the country, and also create a very favorable climate for all the farmers in Uganda and within the association. Now, this association is working with the government extension workers to regenerate agricultural pillars and also foster smart climate farming practices in the country, because as the world is actually changing, smart farming practices are the way to go. This includes use of machinery and also encrypting different farming techniques in order to meet the standards of the world market. Now, the association is working with these extension workers to ensure that they continue helping out farmers, especially those that do lack the potential to afford these extension workers. Now, also, the association is implementing the institutional farming, which organizes farmers in two groups, this in an effort to enhance bargaining power. While the agricultural value chain in the transformation from subsistence to commercial farming is also underway, there is need to train farmers on modern farming practices, chemical usage and appropriate mechanization technologies. And well, in order to see that we have the right standard for goods on the market. And well, we're not only looking at the goods within Uganda, but also making sure that if we are exporting goods, it is important for these to meet international standards. That also implies that the goods on the Ugandan market have to be able to sustain and also satisfy the client's hunger in relation to the quality, the quantity, and the consistency of the two. Now, moving further, still in agriculture, we talk matters coffee farming in northern Uganda. The Uganda Coffee Development Authority has tasked the northern Ugandan farmers to embrace coffee growing as a major cash crop in the diversification of household incomes. Now, unlike the short-term crops grown in the area like simsi, maize and sunflower, you get to realize that the managing director of the Uganda Coffee Development Authority, Emmanuel Iyamulemye, and board are traversing the Acholi sub-region and Lango sub-regions on the coffee growing agenda to enhance the production of coffee, which for many years has been looked at as Uganda's backbone in regards to the agricultural exports, because we do export quite huge bags of coffee in the country or out of the country. Now, the managing director did say that they will be pushing for this particular one in the Acholi sub-region and Lango sub-region. Now, the field mission to, when you look at the field mission to Lango and Acholi sub-regions by the Uganda Coffee Development Authority, is to upscale coffee growing and production to bring about macroeconomic stability in the country. Now, a cross-section of farmers have identified coffee as a major cash crop of sustainable nature in order to alleviate poverty in the country. But not only that, the weather changes and weather conditions in the country as of now is also quite unfavorable and becoming quite unpredictable for some of the farmers, especially when it comes to the devastated coffee plantations in North Uganda, which is something to look into greatly. And the farmers do believe this is also something affecting the growth of coffee within the region, but also they lack a functional coffee processing facility that can help them in regards to value addition matters. Now, lastly, within our business news, we look into illegal fishing. The Fisheries Protection Unit of the Uganda People's Defence Forces has destroyed 5 tons of confiscated premature fish at the detachment in Mwena in Kalangala district. Now, the operation was carried out under the supervision of the unit head, Lieutenant Colonel Masi Tukahira, and the Fisheries Protection Unit of the UPDF in assortment of monofilament fishing nets, substandard fishing boats, and also premature fish were confiscated during operations, among other many items. Now, the unit is developing operation strategies to cope with the dynamic fishermen who innovate techniques for smuggling fishing materials, and so the unit wants to be able to be at the same pace at the end of the day. Also, the head of Fisheries Protection in the UPDF, Lieutenant Colonel Masi Tukahira, advocates for a collaborative approach to mobilize fisherfolk to acquire standard fishing gear within the country and within the different landing sites. Now, the operations were conducted at major landing sites, including Mwena landing site, Nakatiba landing site, Lujabwa landing site, all on Kalangala district, but also the nearby islands on Lake Victoria. Lastly, from our business update now, we look at the forex market. Close of business Tuesday 23rd. As you're heading out into the market space, how will you definitely find these currencies faring or trading rather, for those who want to exchange different currencies? We start off with the US dollar at the opening time of Tuesday. The US dollar was buying at 3,809.29, while selling at 3,819.29. Closing time saw the US dollar buy at 3,807.96 while selling at 3,817.96. Then also the Great Britain pound was buying at 4,852.86 while selling at 4,865.60. The euro was buying at 4,153.34 while selling at 4,164.24. And then the Kenyan shilling was buying at 23.39 while selling at 23.45. The Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.50 while selling at 1.51 shillings, while the South African rand was buying at 199.47 while selling at 200.00 shillings. And that's how you will find the forex market this morning. Well, till tomorrow, I'll be back to give you more details coming in from the world of business. Stick around for more. This is Good Morning Uganda.
all the slippery roads that come across because of the weather that we have. It's a wet morning today. This is Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. We would like to see how you can maneuver through the roads and navigate and see if you can get to your workplace in record time. Now, with wet weather comes slippery roads, so that sometimes creates a challenge that now gives us traffic jam on different roads. Well, if you're coming from the road that is Chitintale and of course going through Bugolobi, would like to have a look at that and see how you can be able to move from one place to another. Now, what you see on your screen is the intersection that joins Old Port Bell Road to the road that comes from the sides of Chireka or Chinawataka. And right at this juncture, we have a bit of traffic jam that's coming through because of some of the vehicles that are moving from the sides of Chireka Road and Old Port Bell Road, meeting at this section right before Silver Springs Hotel. Now, moving ahead, we see that there is a stretch that has smooth flow of traffic, but as Solent Avenue joins Port Bell Road, then we will experience a bit of traffic jam in this section. And moving ahead, we see that there is smooth flow of traffic ahead along New Port Bell Road. And of course, there is a bit of traffic jam that is coming through from Ismail Road, as many people use this feeder road, as a way to get away from traffic jam on the main road. Now, going ahead still on New Port Bell Road, we experience a bit of a hold up here. There is an orange zone we are seeing here, and that is indicative of traffic jam that is starting to build in this section. Still going ahead with New Port Bell Road. Now, New Port Bell Road is the road that you use to get through to Bugolobi, where there is the MTN switch, and then you connect to Moobs Gate, and then you get into Nakawa around the traffic lights and head on to Ginger Road. Now, on this road this morning, we are experiencing, for the most part, smooth flow of traffic as we continue ahead. And when you reach the junction that has the Nakawa Business Park and the traffic lights, this is where you're experiencing a little bit of traffic jam, but then that is usually caused by the traffic lights. Now, heading into the main road, which is the Kampala Ginger Road Highway, we are experiencing a smooth flow of traffic in this section as you head down to the roundabout at Ginger Road, where now here there is a bit of traffic jam that has built up specifically for the cars that are coming in from Wampeo Avenue and those heading the side of Ginger Road, and of course those coming in from Ginger Road itself. And of course there is some bit of traffic coming in from the Old Port Bell Road joining the roundabout at Ginger Road. But from there you experience a smooth flow of traffic as you continue into town, especially in the areas of Kampala Road and surrounding areas. A few roads along Kampala Road are bringing in a bit of traffic jam, but for the most part, at least as of this minute, there is a smooth flow of traffic within the business center. Well, that's all that we had for you as far as traffic updates are concerned. We'll be back tomorrow to give you the same. My name is Olive Monica Najuma.
Of the day on UBC.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Welcome everyone to the biggest game on the continent.
And you have to. You've got to just seize those moments and enjoy them as much as you possibly can.
The cardinal role of a government is maintaining law and order, safeguarding citizens' rights, and providing essential public goods and services. Throughout its tenure, the government has consistently upheld these principles. This foundation creates an environment conducive to delivering crucial social services to citizens through diverse approaches such as taxation, strategic budgeting, and effective policy implementation. A transformative education system, advancing healthcare provisions, enhancing social welfare, and propelling infrastructure growth, all of which continue to evolve daily to cater to the population's expectations. Supported by a meticulously organized network of ministries, government remains committed to serving its citizens. Coming soon on your public broadcaster, The Front Bench, your interface with the government every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with Joram Paul Sonko, only on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso, every Wednesday live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact. And not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Amina gange tubona kiranda Amina mu company eya WIB Uganda Limited ndi member. Wemba member kampani eno weyeida twalinga tutuli bulungi ng'abakyala ab'ewakawaka. Ng'abakyala ab'ewakawaka tuwemeera ku baami baife nga bonkana abajjamu nanda nga twiddi nti abakyala tebakozesa ki nanda. UN Women weyeida yatuteekateeka yatwegesa okulunda engege ng'abakyala. Twatandika beeno okudulunda n'okudirisa n'okola ki. Twafunamu ng'abakyala aba Bugiri district. Abakyala aba Bugiri district sofa tuli abakyala 14 abakola project ya WIB. Abakyala 14 twayawula mu sectors. Mulimu abakyala ba production, abaliisa, mwaba abakyala ba validation, abongera engege omutindo bayongerako omutindo. Twaba n'abakyala ba harvesting, twaba n'abakyala abakola aba marketing. Sector donna diri trained era didi kyedikola ki kyedikola. Project eno tufunyemu ng'abakyala. Government yaife ne ya Uganda njebaza okujja kujanga batulingirira mu ng'abakyala abana Uganda. Eri kujanga eturobingira ebibiina bingi. We have UWeb, baleta parish development model. We have Myoga. Byonna biri kwida muki mu bakyala oba mu bantu abaki aba Uganda.
Mukoke Fish Farmers Association tuli balunzi ba byananda ebyebika ebisatu omuli Miracap, tilapia oba engege ni catfish twete male. Group eno twatandika twali abantu basatu nga tulingirira obwetaavu obw'ebyenanda oba obwivwa eno okubona nti tufuna okasente akava mu maadi agali gatambula butambule nga gatubita ku wano ng'ekirabo. Twatandika ni fish pond ndala mu mwaka gw'e2018. Twebaza fisheries officer ni district ya Bugiri babanga batulagirira kusaani fish farm ebwikwe side day ndeyo twabanga tusobola okufuna kwetusaako obugege obwasooka era mu mwaka ogwali 2020 awo basobola okubanga batuwaayo ebyenanda emitwalo $40 okuva mu operation were creation era okubayongereza ku emmere yatuweebwa okuva Uganda Poultry Breeders. Twasobola okuba nga tusoloza akasente akawerera obukayire nga 42. Twasobola okuba nga tuinvestinga oba okubona nti twongerezaako ku bimu ku bintu bye tukola gano. Twebaza gavumenti yaife okuba nga buli saawa efaayo okuba nga efeeri y'Abannayuganda.
This Promotional, as the name prescribes, is the project for restoration of livelihood in northern region. So it was designed to support the population in order to implement the national programs of wealth creation, improving household income, and this is done through supporting agriculture. And by supporting agriculture, you support seed production, training of farmers, mindset change, and even it went ahead to have components of food security grants, whereby families were given grants to be able to improve their food security. But there was also community-based natural resources grants, which were given to families to put in place woodlots, which would help them to reduce on killing the vegetation and deforestation, looking for energy or for firewood. So this is my general perception. One, that this project entered in strategic areas of government, but that it has created a base for the now last mile strategy, which is the parish development model. And therefore this base that it has left will help us actually, and I'm sure we'll get better results in a Chole area and Ajumani when we are implementing the parish development model.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Morning. It is really cold, and in January. Now, when you talk about climate change, the impacts, changes in seasons, this is what you are referring to, and that is why we see that on all global forums, climate change becomes one of the issues to be discussed. Now, we are done with the NAM, the G77 plus, and of course, wait for more conferences that will be coming in Uganda. But we are back to fighting poverty in our country, which is the SDG #1 as we look at the Agenda 2030, leaving nobody behind and ensuring that, yes, by the time we get there, poverty, the world will have overcome that. Now, in our country, Uganda, one of the methods that we use to fight poverty is through groupings. And when we talk about groupings, we are referring to cooperatives under circles. Now, these include village savings and lending institutions, investment clubs, savings and cooperative organizations. And today we want to look at digitalizing these saving groups, because even if government is to give money, it gives money to organized groups, and these groups develop the members in them. Now, joining me on set, I have the General Secretary, Uganda Cooperative Alliance, Ivan Asimwe Cooperatives, is with me this morning, and you're most welcome.
Pleasure being here. Good morning, Ugandans. I love that. Thank you so much.
Yes, you know, he recently got a name from me as the clansman. Cooperatives, because whenever you see him, you know he's very passionate in this method that he believes has worked globally in alleviating poverty. And because these institutions, but when we talk about banking, of course, banks are there. And I have Angela Ndawula, Head Business and Institutions, Housing Finance Bank. Most welcome, Angela.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I'm really happy to be here, and I look forward to this discussion.
Okay. Now, to begin with, I'll start with my colleague at the extreme end. When we talk about fighting poverty or reducing poverty, or poverty alleviation through circles, how realistic is this? Because government has done this over and over. How realistic is this?
Thank you so much. Once again, viewers, I'm happy to be here. And as usual, Ivan Asimwe, General Secretary, Uganda Cooperative Alliance. And of course, I can't fail to appreciate UBC for always giving us this opportunity. Cooperators, you join me to thank UBC because you have been there for the cooperators. When I talk of cooperators, I mean over 18 million Ugandans. We are the largest constituency. So, thank you so much. Before I come to that, I want also to thank the government of Uganda and to congratulate all people of Uganda for what has been happening, because we have just ended the international conferences, the NAM, Non-Aligned Movement, and the G77 plus China. Ugandans, congratulations, because they were held very successfully. And above all, I want to thank His Excellency, because he has been elected the chair. And what do we learn from this as Ugandans? This is an opportunity for us to move forward, take this opportunity, and we really move forward as a country. And as cooperators, we take advantage of this. And that is why we are here. Immediately after the end of these international conferences, I was following everything. And the cooperators, this is the opportunity for us. Let's take advantage, let's position ourselves and move forward. So as a country, we have benefited a lot, and there is a lot to benefit. The fact that now Uganda is the one chairing this. So how do we move forward is very critical. Now, back to your question. You know, when you talk about poverty, still, I was very impressed with the president's communication when he was talking about Africans continuously donating wealth. I think you are following very closely. Donating wealth. And this one now fits very well in what we have been discussing here. The word poor. Passing on opportunities repeatedly. Africa must wake up. This is the time for us to wake up. We cannot sleep for long. You donate your coffee to Europe. They make money and you remain poor here. You donate your tea. You donate your gold. You donate everything. And these guys are moving forward. For us, they continue calling us poor, beggars. There is no way you can continue calling me a beggar when I'm the one donating my wealth to you. It's like for, we are cattle keepers. I get my cow, give it to Chirabo, then you give me in the morning, you bring me a cup of milk, and then you say Ivan is poor. But the cow is mine. So it is high time that I repossessed my cow and I own my milk. So in his communication, he was emphasizing the issue of value addition. How can we, for example, get our coffee as farmers through our cooperatives? We mobilize our coffee together, we aggregate it, we ensure standardization, we add value and collectively market. Instead of donating this coffee in raw form, we export the coffee as Nescafe, as a finished product. Because we are exporting it at around 10,000 shillings, but we are importing a finished product, Nescafe, closer to 180,000. So who is making money? It is the other person, not me, the farmer. So this is the time for us to wake up. I really want to thank him that because he has challenged us as Ugandans, that it is high time that we wake up. Now, this is why we are coming in here to really share with Ugandans what is it that we can do strategically to move this country forward. And we can do this by supporting and promoting cooperatives and ensuring that people come together through groups. And you don't only end at that, you go up to digitization. Because this is critical. We cannot continue working via analog. The world is moving digitally. So how do we move strategically? The business, you know, sometimes when you read in the Bible, there is a saying that as it was, it is now, and ever shall be. Is it realistic? We must move forward. We must leave whatever was there. We now continue. We must stop lamenting. We have the revelation today. Let's move forward into acts. And this one can be realized through digitization. I will give you an example. I worked in a circle for 8 years, from cashiering up to general manager. And during that time, we were basically using manual system. You know manual system, where a member comes, you get your pen, you get your paper. Here, for example, she has brought 10,000 shillings to deposit on her account. You have to get her passbook, you write in the passbook, then you get a till sheet, then you go to a waste sheet, then you go to a day sheet, then you go to controls, everything manual. Now you know what would happen. In the process of recording all of this, she has brought 10,000. Me, Ivan, a cashier, I record 10,000 on the till sheet. It is taken to the next desk, the other person writes 100,000. Error. Now, at the end of the day, you have an error of 90,000. Because I recorded 10, she recorded 100. So there is a difference of 90. You would come back a weekend, Saturday, Sunday, to look for 90,000 because the whole system is manual. Now, remember, the next day, the member is coming to withdraw. You have not yet balanced, but the person is coming to withdraw. In the passbook is 10,000, on the card is 100,000. So, finally, what would happen? The person withdraws 90,000, but she deposited 10,000. You know, these guys are also, they will see what is happening. They first trick you. So, what is the solution to this problem? The solution is going digital. Whereby now, if I'm a member, I can easily deposit my money. There was another challenge. You can imagine in rural areas, I got an opportunity of working in a rural circle where someone is supposed to walk a distance of 10 kilometers to come and deposit money at a circle. Now you can imagine a woman wants to deposit 10,000, especially where I was working, women were saving more than men. So a woman is forced to go to walk 10 kilometers to go and deposit 10,000. And a motorcycle, if you are to go to and fro, you need 10,000. So is there essence of someone coming to deposit? What would they do? And mind you, they are hiding away from their husbands.
Not to know.
Because if the husband knows that you have 10,000, he wants it. So the woman would take a hoe to the garden, she hides it there. Very early in the morning, she walks to the circle, deposits money quietly, and goes back to the garden. By the time the husband realizes, the woman is back in the garden. So all that confusion can only be solved whereby you come up with an app which is a digital platform, whereby this woman comfortably can deposit this money at home.
Let me bring in the woman at this
particular time. This is now where, Mr. Chirabo,
yes,
I would want to appreciate profoundly the Housing Finance Bank.
Yes.
Last week, we launched the Investor app. And the Investor app is coming in to solve all these challenges I've mentioned. There are very many challenges. But a few of the challenges I've mentioned, this app is coming in to solve them, where the circles, the investment clubs, the village savings and loan, and other these rural savings clubs, where they have now, it is an opportunity for them to transact digitally. Have you ever had a situation where you hear that a chairman of a savings group in the village has run away with the box and the book? But here now, the situation has been solved. A member just deposits like this, and the whole transaction is complete. If you want a statement, you can easily access it. If you want to know your balance, everything is digital. So this is where we are going. Cooperators, I call upon everybody, let's join together our hands and move away from analog to the digital system, because this is where the world has moved.
Now that having been said and emphasized better, let me bring in the woman, the modern woman, who doesn't have to hide a hole, then later run and come back. First, let's get to understand better this system. He talked about a word that my local people, when you mention investor, their minds go to a different skin color. That person must be holding a passport, maybe that is not Ugandan, and Ivan says the investor something up.
Yes.
Please throw more light to this, because savers there he's talking about may save later invest, but they may feel they are left out by the word investor. Yes, Angela.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for highlighting that investor word. But also I'd like to thank Mr. Simwe. Thank you very much, because he has laid the ground for what I'm going to say. Before I come to the investor app, what we are really talking about is we can grow as a country if we unite and move together. There's a saying that if you want to go far, go in a group. If you want to go very fast, go alone. So if we want to go far as a country, as people, as communities, as society, we need to move together. And in this moving together, what do? We think about ways and things that are going to help us improve. You cannot be moving together when one person is wearing a torn trouser and the other one is wearing a suit. That is not going together. So we have to make sure that this one who is wearing a torn trouser, we also bring them up to the level of being in a decent living. So when we are moving together, we think of ways to improve communities. You cannot improve a community alone.
Yes.
I'll give you an example. In my village where I live, we had a terrible, terrible road. So that spoke to access. All the time, the bumps, you know, the access to your home, it was a nightmare. One person could not fix that road. But as a community, we got together and said, if each one brings this amount of money, we can fix this road. As we speak now, the road to my home is tarmac. And we are all happy. I'm not busy fixing my car all the time with repairs because of broken parts, because of when it rains, I have to be late for work because I have to find an alternative route. You see? So that is what I call together. So when we are talking about what things we can do together, there can never be something that you move together and you don't include finances, because that is the currency. That's the currency of the economy, finances. And when we are talking about group savings, we're looking at the SDGs, but we are also looking at the National Financial Inclusion Plan, the National Development Plan, where we want to drive financial inclusion. What is financial inclusion? Financial inclusion is when my grandmother or my mother way back in the village can have access to finances. Access doesn't mean a brick and mortar building that she has to go into a bank and pick money. She should be able to get this money even without necessarily going into a structure, a brick and mortar structure. So that is financial inclusion. But besides access, she should be able to, if I send her some money for upkeep, she should be able to save some and say, oh, let me use this one for sugar, let me use this one for soap, but also let me save some for a rainy day. And when when she saves it and accumulates it, what happens thereafter? But if there are so many like that, then they can come together and say, monthly, this is what we want to do as a group. Let's contribute a certain amount and be able to achieve our desired goal. So they come together as a group. They may form a village savings, a village savings scheme. They may form an investment club, and it can mature and grow into a circle where they can even do what? Borrow. Or even in the investment club and in the village savings and loan schemes, they can borrow. So that helps them to improve their livelihood. Now, in this process of forming investment clubs, circles, you know, village savings, there have been challenges. And you find that a group, like he said, has a chairman and the treasurer. He may be the same person who is the chair and the treasurer. When you go, he has this big black book. He records the money in, the money out. That day, someone says, this chairman, he has money under his bed, let's go and attack. Unscrupulous, of course.
A metallic suitcase.
Yeah? A metallic suitcase.
A box there.
Or a box.
He keeps under the bed. Metallic and big padlocks.
That day you are all doomed. You will not shoot the chairman. It wasn't his fault that the thieves came. But at the same time, you have lost. So it has set you back. Now that is a challenge.
And actually that is very common.
Security.
When you look at most of these investment clubs, or you call them village savings institutions,
yes, and loan associations,
you find that most of them, someone keeps the money at their
under
place.
the bed.
This is real. Someone is keeping the money at their place.
Yes.
And you will hear issues. Sometimes they misuse the money, not knowing. Maybe they think what is there is theirs all, or they think they'll use and be able to pay back, and then they fail to do that. It's a complicated thing.
You know, over, last year during Christmas, in my village, the treasurer of a savings group swallowed the book. Members wanted accountability. It's more a book of 96 pages. So they tasked him to give accountability of their money. The man swallowed the book. Swallowed it because he couldn't give accountability. As they were forcing him to give accountability, he just choose
page by page.
And the book is done. And he says, so nowadays they call him Chitabu. In my language, is a book. So those things are happening, I tell you. So the only solution is going digital.
Digital and, you know, embracing these financial solutions. So I've talked about that. Safety of the money. It can be deliberately or not deliberately. But then there's also the issue of the mismanagement. I think mismanagement of the funds. The treasurer decides, this money, let me first buy a cow. Then for this time, then I sell it and put the money back. The savers don't know what he's doing. At a certain point, someone needs the money, can't access it. Why? He has a cow there, but he's afraid to say, I used your money to buy a cow. So there's mismanagement of funds and people get defrauded of their hard-earned money. Imagine in the village where you save 5,000, 1,000 per day and your money is defrauded. Then also, like you can see, sometimes you need capital to do something. And if, like I said earlier, if it is you alone, like I said, I told you about our road, you can't do it.
Yes.
But when you're together and you collect that money, you can do something big. You can say, let's go to the bank and borrow against this money. You can get a land title. You can even get a land title. And start building, maybe buy a land, subdivide, sell at a profit. You know, these things are live in our environments. This is what is happening now. And that is how people are developing. Place it in treasury bonds, get interest, and distribute, and the money keeps growing. You get capital to do what you want. If you are planning, your child is going to university at a certain time, or to secondary school, or to whatever level, you start saving, well knowing that at that point, you will not be stressed. So there's lack of capital. Then we've already all understood the issue of manual transactions. In, out, the error. Instead of 10,000, you write 100,000. He comes to withdraw 90, but remember he deposited 10,000. So you end up at a loss. Mismanagement. And many other, different challenges these groups face. So, to my point now, why we come in as Housing Finance Bank, we see the need, and we want to support. We are a government-owned financial institution. Therefore, we have to support the government programs.
Yes.
And we have to support them deliberately by innovation, you know, and providing solutions. Because we want the Ugandan to get better and better and bank, you know, the unbanked. Because believe you me, the person who deposits in that club may not initially have an account, and the club has an account. But eventually, as they grow, they also need a place to keep this money that they are saving when they give them dividends or when they give them, you know, their proceeds. They need an account. So housing finance, we provide all those accounts for individuals and even for groups. Yeah. Now, how the investor app works.
Maybe before we go to how the investor app works, I want to bring in Ivan here. He has dealt with such groups of people for quite a long time.
Yes.
It's just reminded me of a group where these are bikers, and they agreed that every month each one must save 200,000. Now they get that money on the 23rd. Now what happened along the way, they had issues of the group, and the account has 2 signatories. Now one out of conflict left the group, but she must sign on the account. Now the biggest punishment she gave them was to travel for Christmas to Rwanda without signing. And this was hell to many, because they were sure with Christmas they are settled, because they have been religiously saving. So now this is where I want to bring in Ivan. When we talk about circles, when we talk about investment clubs in the village and all this, you see, adaptation is not easy to many. If people were sure that that house you see is where there is our money, and the chairman has been very grateful keeping that, transiting to being told that no, now the money is not going to be at the chairman's place. This is a person they see every day. They know, they walk to, and they come here and say, no, let me give you my money. Where you found me. When I go, I'll transfer. Do you anticipate a smooth sail into this? More so when she talks about village savings and lending associations and investment clubs.
Yeah, thank you so much. Fortunately, Bwana Chilabo, is that the majority of Ugandans now have phones. Majority, any type of phone, at least they have phones, and they can effect a transaction using their phones. What we have just mentioned, and Ugandans, when I was mentioning this, it's a true story, and you are alluding to it, that ours, I think, was around the 21st. You know, these village savings and loan associations, they collect money from January. They are now piling their monies every week, every week, every week. Then December, around the 21st, they now sit together as a group. They want to compute how much have we invested, how much do we have, our balance, and all of that. So the treasurer could not give accountability. And the man is tasked, because it's a whole group seated in the marketplace. And his task is in the center, give us accountability. So the man gets a book, 96 pages, starts folding it. They couldn't know exactly the motive, puts it in the mouth, chews it. As they come to grab him, swallows it. Don't ask me whether he's still alive, but it happened, and it's a real story. Why? Because he was misusing the money, and he couldn't give accountability. The members did not have any statements, so they have to come and see, Ivan, you have been depositing like this, up to the end.
So what happens? You bring your money, then you countersign against the
However,
amount.
when you are using this system, you can easily even check your balances and know, this is my balance. By December, this is my money. If I want to withdraw, still the same. And making statements is very easy. So members, we are talking about migrating from analog. Analog is just we are doing things manually.
So those are some of the members of savings on the screen.
Especially the circles down there. Because I was there for 8 years and I know what is happening downstream. It is very tedious and very expensive. Chairmen and the managers of circles, if you feel that digitizing is very expensive, I want to tell you, manual system is more expensive. Because you would require all staff to come over the weekend to look for a balance of 90,000. Just Saturday and Sunday. Now you need to post in the passbook. You post in the on the till sheet, on the ledger card, on the day sheet, on the waste sheet, in the controls. Then you work on the balance sheet manually, the income statement manually. Everything is manual. And the worst of all is where an error is made. And it is very hard to detect. But with the system, once you enter like this, automatically you have a report ready. It is more cheap.
It's not waiting for the annual general meeting.
It is cheaper.
Take group photos, sit, and now
So-
you're told we neither made profits nor losses.
So you do not
but
need,
we are surviving.
You don't need to wait for the treasurer to swallow a book.
Or wait for the annual general meeting
is
for a
very
report.
clear. And you also go to these annual general meetings. You have told us. You go to an annual general meeting, and people cannot give accountability.
Oh, there is one I went to and it was
Completely.
very interesting. First and foremost, they put accountability after you've had lunch. So in the morning session, there are things you don't understand, what. Then after you've had lunch, this person comes, you've had lunch a bit late, people are tired, then last on the agenda is giving accountability, then election of new leadership.
Now, that one I think...
Then the man comes and brings figures you don't understand.
Chiraba, I think that one was better.
Then he says...
There is another one which I attended.
We neither made losses, no profits. So I was like, now what did we make?
Now
but the good thing is we are standing.
Now the other one I attended is where now in the morning hours, they are busy doing other things. And the financials come at the time at around 4.
Yes.
People are already
Yeah.
tired.
Yes.
They are hungry. The chairman announces there that, you people, your allowances are ready. Then they bring the food and they put it somewhere behind. So you already have a feeling. The food is ready. The allowance is coming. You're already tired. You are hungry. So you cannot
You
even
just want to pick your allowance and go home.
You can't even internalize what is in the financials. So that is how the problems are coming in these cooperatives, especially circles. So the solution is digitizing, so that as a member, I do not need even to wait for a report. I already see my balance. I already see everything is very clear. As a board chairman or treasurer, I don't need to ask the manager. I can easily check, because it's just a matter of clicking a button and you are able to see the financial position and the performance of these groups.
Now
so we are calling it
let's go to Angela in the interest of time. Because when I look at time here, it seems to be flying so fast. Angela, how is this working, or how is it going to be addressing these challenges?
Okay, so what we've done as Housing Finance Bank, because we know that we have to reach the unbanked deep there in the grassroots, we've created an app. And this is one of the ways we've innovated, providing solutions. Because how we come up with this is we first listen, we listen to the customers and see where the need is. And us being an indigenous bank, it's very, very easy for us to go back to the kitchen, cook, and come up and provide a solution. And even then, we keep refining and making the solutions better. So with these challenges that we highlighted, access to the banks or to the brick and mortar, mismanagement of funds, poor banking culture, lack of capital, manual processing, even financial illiteracy. We came up with this app. It's called the Investor App. Investor App. Why we coined it Investor App? Because if you use this app very well, you can also be an investor in your own right. Because you see, we've seen hostels come up, we've seen schools come up out of these groups. So you can become an investor. So with what does the Investor App do? The Investor App helps you to manage. We have, when you have a circle or a club, we first of all educate you, number one, because it's very important for you to know what you're getting into. So we do financial literacy sessions with you and the whole circle, even the administrators. We take our time to educate you so that you understand what you're getting into and the advantages, how you're going to use this system. So you have administrators, and then you have members. So in the administrators, normally we have a chair, we have a treasurer, maybe, and a secretary, and those normally form, depending on how the circle or the club is operating, they choose signatories. Those are the ones who will be the administrators of the app. But also you have access to, we have both the administrator and then the member, side, whereby you can see every time you deposit and withdraw. And then you can also see the interest you're earning. You can also see your balances. So it gives you an indication of if you want to get 2 million by the end of the 6 months or a certain period, how much should you be putting in? So it even stops you from thinking, oh, traditionally, let me only save 10,000 per month. You start pushing yourself a little harder and saying, maybe if I put 20,000, it will help for me to be able to access. But you can see your statement and you can see your balances. Now, the administrator on the other end, because these are groups, so there are many other members. The administrator will not only see me, Angela. They will see you, Chirabo, they'll see you, Ivan, how you're performing, how you're depositing. And even when you want to withdraw, you prompt it on the app. So I
can transact without necessarily going to the circle
physically. These days people are busy. So what we do, we help you to make it easy for you. That is our tagline. We make it easy and help you do transactions where you are.
Even now, Chirabo can deposit.
Yes, even now, if you are a member of the circle, while I'm talking and there's something urgent, you can deposit or withdraw. You prompt, but it's from where you are. And it's not only for maybe iPhone users. No. It's for everyone who has a phone. So and then in the process as a bank, we also provide you with transactional accounts so that when you get this money, you don't have to withdraw all of it and go. If you want to, you have a savings account. We give you transactional where you can operate. We offer you savings accounts for individuals, even for children.
Well, time is not on my side.
It's not on your side, but let me just add a few things. We give you investment options because you see, some of these investment options are abstract. People say, oh, let's collect money and give to one person. But there are other government securities that you can invest in, treasury bills and bonds.
Well, Angela, I must give room for sports updates. I just want to thank you very, very much, you and Ivan. I just hope that we shall have another opportunity for yet people to better understand this. Well, I must leave, but at least you've gotten to know that now if you're a SACCO, you're a village savings and lending association, you're an investment club, there is an opportunity. You're gonna Cooperative Alliance, Housing Finance are bringing an opportunity for you to be able to solve the problems that have been encumbrances to the success, saving and transaction of these particular institutions. See you in the next hour. I must leave. Good morning.